Hi, I'm Justin Jordan, and you're watching At Random with Ken K.
All right, this is Ken K, and we are here at AwesomeCon 2019 in Washington, D.C., and we are here with comic book writer Justin Jordan. You should know him from titles like The Strange Talent of Luther Strode, Shadow Man, and I believe also Deep State, if I'm correct?
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, done most recently Curse of Brimstone at DC, which was part of their New Age of Heroes initiative. We just went 12 issues in an annual with that, so that's my most recent thing. I've got a upcoming book called Reaver coming out from Skybound that starts in July, so it's available for order now, he said, promoting.
No, that's perfect. It's good to know what you're up to, and I would say you've seem to do a lot of horror-related titles, supernatural titles, if not straight horror, but is that something you always wanted to do as a comic book writer, or is that something you fell into?
Oh, no, it's what I like to do. It's one of the reasons we did Strode. Strode originally is kind of a mixture of horror and superheroes is kind of what we were going with that, so I kind of broke in on the back of that, and I've done a good deal of it. I would actually like to do more of it. That and crime fiction are what I really like to do, and I wish I got to do more of each of them.
Okay. So, would you say you're like a big crime novel fan?
I am.
What would you say are some of your favorite titles?
So I really like Elmore Leonard stuff. I'm a big fan of James Lee Burke's Robichaux series and his Holland kind of stuff. I really like, it's more mystery than crime, but I really liked Robert Parker's Spencer books. I really like Donald Westlake and Richard Stark, especially when he's writing the Parker novels and that kind of stuff. I like the hardcore thing. More recently, and related to comics, Duane Straczynski does a very good crime novels and that kind of stuff. Also excellent comics. He's done Black Hood for Archie and a bunch of titles like that. He's now moved to the television.
So mentioning Elmore Leonard, did you ever watch? Would it be fair to say that you were a big fan of Justified?
Oh yeah, Justified's one of my favorite television shows ever. And oftentimes, whenever I'm thinking about writing, and I'm like, man, how would Justified say this or do this? Is kind of one of my go-to kind of touchstones. So yeah, I love Justified.
So, as far as working in comics as a writer, what would you say is your biggest challenge, especially writing for like Marvel and DC?
I mean, the job is not. That part of it is not necessarily inherently challenging. I mean, the thing about writing for Marvel and DC is that we're working within a shared universe, so you need to know that stuff. And you also, at least for me, you need to consider how the story is going to fit in as history goes, right? There's a lot of goofy stories that have been told, and I think you should try to think like, man, in 10 years as part of the story, is this actually going to work, or is it just cool now? You know what I mean? So you try to be organic about that kind of stuff. But honestly, the biggest thing is working as a freelancer is just the hustle. Like, you constantly have to be generating new projects and that kind of stuff, because honestly, in comics, you need to expect most things to fail. As depressing as that sounds, but it's like television, right? Like, how many new television shows are there each year, and how many don't get a second season? It's kind of how comics is. You got to expect you're going to get 6 issues, so you kind of have to be hustling for the next thing if that's what you're doing for a living.
Okay, yeah, no, that's absolutely fair. Now, we're here at AwesomeCon, and you told me before we started this interview that you're just here as a fan and you're not exhibiting. But as someone who's exhibited at comic book conventions before, what would you say is like the biggest challenge of like just kind of like being at the table and kind of having to interact with fans?
I mean, certainly for me, I like interacting with fans, but I've also found that, like, I only have a certain amount of, like, sociability in me each day. Like, it's very stressful, you know what I mean? It's a certain amount of social anxiety and that kind of stuff. And as the cons go, you typically don't get enough sleep, you're not eating well, like, you're kind of on your feet or doing stuff, oftentimes, like, 12 or 14 hours a day. And then, you go out and do the networking thing afterwards. So, through the days, it can be hard to kind of manage that energy. And I think managing stress and managing your energy is probably the most challenging part of doing conventions. Certainly for me. AwesomeCon classically is not that bad for it, but big shows like New York are really a struggle to kind of make it through.
So what would you say is your go-to food and drink combination throughout most cons?
Oh, God. Just Diet Dr. Pepper and a hamburger. Nothing powers you like grease, man. So
Breakfast of Champions. Now, we started the interview with you talking about your upcoming projects, but just to remind folks of what you're going to be doing.
So the thing I've got coming out next is a book called Reaver from Skybound, which is a very grim and gritty kind of fantasy. The first arc is basically could best be described as the Dirty Dozen in Game of Thrones. They've basically
That
taken...
sounds brutal.
Right? Yeah. It's good. Well, probably the nicest person on the team is a cannibal, so it goes down from there.
I'm gonna be on the lookout for that book because that sounds interesting.
We've got the tremendous Rebecca Isaacs on art. She did a bunch of Buffy over the years and that kind of stuff, so she's working with us on art for that.
Oh, that's gonna be a good book because I loved Rebecca Isaacs' run on Buffy as the artist. So I'm definitely going to be looking forward to that. But thank you, Justin, for taking the time out to talk to me, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the con.
Thanks, man. You too. Thanks.